this idea that the bad guy like infamy ends is utter and complete nonsense. O.J. Simpson is more famous than Candace Owens, and he not for a good reason. Infamy, I think it'll just fade in a second. I totally disagree.
Status is status is status.
Thank you. Status is status is status.
This is status.
I'm not saying this is a good thing, guys. It would be better if you were known for something, for doing wonderful things for people. But the reality of the situation is, all of you who are watching this, none of you are as famous as the Hawk Tua girl. And I'm gonna make one more prediction, Tristan. Some dude will marry her. Some dude will propose marriage to her in the next 5 years. As crazy as that sounds, they will. The idea that no man's going to want to be with her, bro, there will be a line to the left. Basically, do you want to go on a date with Lily Phillips? If they did a reality show, there'd be 1,000 dudes in London trying to date this girl. And some of them, you'd be shocked, might even be good looking and wealthy. It's crazy how today's society has crippled men. So many men believe that they're worthless. I absolutely believe dudes would line up to date this woman. I totally disagree with Candace on this at this point. I think the world should be that way. It would be great if you were merited more for doing good things in the world. I think the world would be better that way, but that's not how the world is. What's going on, guys? This is Michael Sartain here. We wanted to do a reaction video to the whole Lily Phillips situation. We did one on Access Vegas. It did really well. I got to be honest with you. I did not think this was that big of an issue when I heard about it. It's like, oh, another girl trying to act with a bunch of people. I'm used to seeing girls on OnlyFans pushing the limits higher and higher. And people before have tried to break these records. The thing is, the record for most men anyone's had sex with in a day is like 919 people. And she had with 100, and I was like, oh, it's just like another stunt. What I didn't realize was the fascination that the rest of the world, including like feminists and tradcons, had with this whole idea of a woman trying to do it. I think part of what did this was this woman has both her parents in her life, and she's actually kind of physically attractive. I think that's one of the reasons why so many people got caught up in this. Tristan, I mean, you saw this. You saw the reaction we had from Access Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it on Access Vegas, but I was actually shocked by like all the other people reacting to it. I think like Greg Doucette made a video on it. I think Philion made a video on it. Candace Owens is gonna preach some right-wing religious nonsense about it. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because we live in Vegas. I'm not like shocked when things like this happen. So maybe we're just so isolated from the rest of the world. This is not a big of a deal. But I didn't think too much of it. I just thought, hey, this is a girl needing massive levels of stimulus and attention and approval, and this is her way of getting it. That's all I really thought.
My initial reaction, and this is a little bit different from what Candace Owens says, is my initial reaction was a girl who liked to have sex on camera, was maybe just some kind of an exhibitionist, just wanted to push the limits to how far she could go. And I was reading before, she had already made like $2.5 million in a year on her OnlyFans. So she's probably one of the top tier creators. Since she did this stunt, she's got 100,000 new IG followers and 100,000 new Twitter followers or followers on X. She's got that, or more than 100,000 on X. So from doing that, like that's what she's gotten. And from Candace Owens' point of view, it's like, this is going to fade. This is just infamy. You know, none of this is real. And your parents basically abused you. So I think this is really interesting. I wanted to react to this video, man. We're gonna play this for you right now, okay? Make sure everybody out there can see this. Let's do this. Ready, go, and bang.
Friends here, we have Candace Owens. I don't even know where to start with her. She's brilliant. And then we have Lily, who's also world record holder, super viral on the internet. Probably the hottest thing on the internet right now.
Pretty well, thank you. How are you guys?
We're good. Are you familiar with Candace at all?
I have. I've definitely seen TikTok clips and things like that, definitely.
Okay, so we're bringing her on because
she has some questions.
She has a couple questions. I've done podcasts with both of you now, and should we start off with the first video that we saw?
The reaction to which one? The first?
There's a tweet out there that has 200 million impressions about like right after the 100 guys scene.
Yeah.
So how did the 100 guys go? Financially, how'd it go? And then also like physically, how was that?
Let's talk mentally. Let's not talk mentally. Let's not physically.
So again, this is the part where you can see that like Steiny is like enjoying this conversation with a hot British girl, and Candace is like mortified. She's like mortified about this conversation.
Well, I mean, obviously, it was a very exhausting day. and very, very stressful, very hard. At some points, we were like, I don't even think we're going to hit 100 and stuff like that. And so it was a very long day at work. And as soon as I finished,
dude, I think one thing that's unique about this, Tristan, is that the other girls that I've seen try this back in the 80s and 90s that tried stuff like this were not physically attractive. Like, this girl is attractive. I think most people would agree. She's at least she's a 23-year-old attractive woman, and I think that's what's catching so many people off guard. And the other thing is, we think of like high class and low class. Well, this is supposed to be like a low class action by a pretty girl who has a British accent. And I think in the United States, we think of British accents as being higher status or being like more high class people. And so you listen to this woman with this pretty face, pretty complexion. She's wearing glasses. She speaks like she's educated. Both of her parents
she
in her
dresses
life,
classy. She has like a good lighting setup, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And we see all these things, and it's like it's kind of throwing people off.
no,
I don't think she has tattoos either. I think she's completely clean on that, right? I don't think she has tattoos.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Unlike you, I haven't watched the whole video.
everything, and I don't think I got a second to really shower or have any kind of think about anything until they kind of started probing me for questions and was putting a camera in my face, asking me, you know, what about
this is another thing is Candace, in her own interview that she does about this afterwards, she starts talking about this concept that like the guy who made the documentary about her was a monster. I find that to be really disingenuous. Number one, because Candace used the video of her crying to make her own point. I think the guy would have been a monster if he had perpetuated the narrative that she never felt any stress or any anguish about this. I actually think her showing this woman's pain meant to me that he wasn't a monster. That's number one. And number two, Candace makes this point about you're only doing this not for fame but for infamy, and infamy fades. The irony, again, I'm not here to debate the points of this, but the irony of someone like Candace, who back in 2020 made the statements that she did about George Floyd. I'm not here to debate the merits of the statement. What I'm saying is she said what she said about George Floyd to piss people off. That's why she said it. She specifically it's not equating it to her this woman having sex with 100 men. But she said what she said about George Floyd to make people angry, and to a large number of people, Candace Owens was living in infamy. Would you say that's true? For her to say that infamy is the enemy is a little bit disingenuous on her part.
I think for somebody who blatantly denies science, I mean, we're going to get into it, who blatantly denies science.
Hold on, just for those you don't, just so that you guys don't know, Tristan's liberal and I'm a conservative. I don't dislike Candace Owens as much as he does. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. For someone who just like blatantly denies science and like says things, I mean, the way I see Candace Owens is like she's there to appease these white people. That's ultimately like what her role is. So I think her whole brand is based off of pissing people off. And now, I mean, we talk about this in MOA, right? What is she doing? She's talking her book. This is her talking her book.
Well, sure, because she's a 35-year-old woman who's married and wants a traditional family and talks about God. So in a certain extent, she is talking her book. But I'm not here to argue the merits of whether or not what she's saying is true. What I'm here to say is she is a person who used infamy, accusing someone else of using infamy, and I don't think that's accurate.
Every little detail, and so. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you guys have seen the clip of me where I'm very, very overwhelmed.
So she's going to use the word overwhelmed instead of sad.
It was a very intense experience, and a very stressful day at work. I
want to hear what Candace has to say.
Has them days where they come back from work and it's intense and they have a little cry.
Before Candace, you respond. Lily was Bradley.
Hey guys, we're going to push this up to like 1.25, maybe a little faster than that, just because we don't want to sit there and make this video to be 6 hours long. We'll go 1.25.
The 100.
What is this?
Sadly, not. I wish.
Oh no, I wasn't there.
You can be there for the 1,000 though.
No, I can't.
We didn't talk about this. So I've actually I've seen interviews. There's one interview, I think it was in the movie After Porn Ends, with fascinating documentary. It's not very well done, but the end of the documentary is really fascinating to me. For girls to get guys to come to gangbang scenes is very difficult. For guys to get girls to come to these scenes, you just pay them, and a lot of times these girls don't mind because. So there's this thing like women who do pornography, for whatever reason, they don't seem to find it too disgusting to do scenes with other women because generally they're comfortable being naked around other women, whereas heterosexual men tend to have way more of an aversion to being naked in a room with other men. So getting multiple men to show, it's like getting a random fan to come have sex with a porn star for a scene. I've heard that wasn't difficult, but what was difficult is getting like 10 guys or 20 guys. Considering getting 100 men, and then consider the idea of getting 1,000 men, because the problem is with the 100 men, where are you mentally for you to be number 70, 80, 90 having sex with Lily Phillips? And then later on, consider where are you mentally when you're the guy and you have 86 seconds to have sex with her doing the 1,000 one. Where are you as a man mentally when you're 800, 900, 950? Because by the time you're 950, you're looking like at I don't want to be too descriptive here. You're looking at a swollen something down there, right? It's probably going to be pretty beat up at 950. And you're looking at a woman who's probably totally disassociated from reality at this point. Do you understand? Like, I'm not saying this isn't going to be a horrible nightmare for her. I feel like for me as a man being in this situation, this would be a nightmare for me as well. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I also think that, like, this is the guys who are participating in this are not the Bradley Martins of the world, the guys she's probably attracted to. I would imagine for these 100 guys, more than 70% of them, this is the hottest girl they've ever fucked in their life, which is why they're even willing to lower their standards this much to even do something like this.
So I also want to point this out real quick before we keep going. This is a great, this video or this whole thing is a great example of the crisis in dating. I really do. Like the fact that even this many men would be willing to do this. How can
these men don't know their worth?
Not only that, the fact that she got $2.5 million in the first place for her OnlyFans, number one. And number two, 100 men came there to have sex with them. Notice, like, one thing we make fun of men all the time for, right, is, oh, these guys are paying these girls on OF and they don't get anything in return. These guys got 5 minutes with their favorite porn star. They legitimately got 5 minutes. But, like, considering that they flew, they took their own time out of their day to go do this. Did you see in the documentary, the director, he actually interviews one of the guys who just had with Lily Phillips, and he's shaking. He's smoking a cigarette and he's shaking. He's like, yo, man, I don't know if I should have done this, because even internally he understands that what he did felt so weird and crazy for him to do something like this. Like, I just can't even, again, guys, I'm not here to judge her. I do think that there's certain coding in her brain that makes her want to do this. This isn't an epidemic. I don't think there's millions of women out there that want to have sex with 100 guys in a day. So this is more of like an exhibitionary thing. But what I do think is interesting, what this says about our society. $6.6 billion going to OnlyFans. Okay. Men flying out of their way to go have sex with a woman to be one of 100, and her making millions of dollars and getting hundreds of thousands of new followers from doing the stunt of having sex with 100 men in a day. There's a lot of things that are being said here. And I'm gonna make one more prediction, Tristan. Some dude will marry her. Some dude will propose marriage to her in the next 5 years. As crazy as that sounds, they will, because what I'm seeing is because of these men thinking that they're worthless, like we said before, the only thing growing faster than the OnlyFans economy is the simp economy. Because of that happening, we're going to see some guy who either has a very low opinion of himself, he's a male feminist, or maybe even a closet homosexual. I'm not trying to shame anybody, but like a closet homosexual who's like very comfortable with being in a relationship with somebody who's had sex with 100 men in a day. And then the other thing is, like, there's a lot of guys who are married to porn stars who've had sex with much more than 100 men. Now, maybe not 100 men in a day, but 100 men. You understand what I'm saying? Like, would you rather, what's worse? A girl that only had sex with 100 men in a day, or a girl that's had sex with 200 men over the course of 10 years? That you would say, though, 200 men but I think they're both just as bad, to be honest with you.
I mean, I'm never going to put myself in either of those situations, so I would never, I wouldn't, to be in if you have to ever choose between those two situations, you really don't know your worth, or you're really down bad.
Yeah.
I can't take it. Right, Candace, so Lily just talked about how it was a party at work, and now she's being emotional after. What's your whole take on all this?
Well, first off, I feel like I should say most people don't have a hard day of work like that. I think obviously what you're doing is kind of a bit of an extreme sport, right? Putting it mildly. But I think one of the questions that I just have about that is, it seems like now you're kind of trying to make light of the situation, but in the moment, you were crying, and I get obviously what attracts you to this. I'm not gonna be patronizing of these questions. It's money and it's fame. These are demonic possessions. What people will do.
There. Pause it.
There it is.
Do you see how? Before we even get into it, before we get into our questions, do you see how she's already seeding two things. One, she's talking about her crying and trying to make light out of it, and two, demonic possessions, trauma, abuse. She's trying to seed the idea, and I'm not saying that there's like, if you compare it to the average population, that women in sex work and the porn industry, if you compare it to a normal sample size of the population, were they sexually assaulted more or abused more? 1,000%. But she is trying to paint her book onto Lily. Just notice that. Just notice how she's seeding that before we move forward.
Yeah,
very,
and
very.
The other part that, again, I've seen this a million times. The other part that I think is really interesting is where she doesn't even come to the idea that maybe this woman likes sex. She doesn't. She
That's
says,
inconceivable.
We understand you're doing this for the fame of the money. Yeah, well, it might be inconceivable for Candace Owens to like sex that much. You consider that?
I don't believe I believe Candace Owens knows what she's doing, and she's talking her book.
Yeah.
I don't believe like even this is inconceivable for her. I just think that this is what she has to say. That's just my view on it, though.
I think I'm going to say something that's going to sound ridiculously simple, but it's going to be controversial to some people. I think that some women a lot because they like.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of tradcons who are very angry with me right now. I'm a conservative, but I'm just going to say this again. I think there's some women out there that like to have a lot of sex because they like sex, not necessarily for attention. Some women actually do like sex. When the studies they go off about women fall in love with their affair partners, they fall in love with their affair partners 83% of the time when they cheat. But that means 17% of the time. That means there's some women out there that just had an affair for sex. That's why they did it. And so I think we forget that women can have their own agency to just enjoy sex as well. And I think that gets lost in this as well.
And we are never appearing on the Daily Wire.
No, maybe we
After
are.
that, we have been canceled from the Daily Wire for life.
In one day. But how do you ignore what you felt after that and how you felt after that and just put on a happy face and pretend that it's normal when it so clearly was not? Like, you clearly were traumatized by the experience.
See,
I
this is it.
think I was traumatized.
Hey, well, hold on. Let her speak her truth
Yeah.
here, because she's saying, she's making your point, Tristan.
Supposed to do this.
Yeah.
This was something that I wanted to do. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it was fucking easy, but I don't think I was traumatized from it at all. I think as well, obviously, from what you might have seen.
I'm going to say something that also might piss a few people off. I think she's telling the truth in her own mind. I think there may have been trauma that caused a rewiring in her brain so that this wasn't traumatizing. What I mean by that is the young lieutenant who gets to Vietnam, and initially he gets there, and he's like, oh my God, he sees all this blood and violence. And after a certain while of that trauma, he gets used to seeing the violence. I think something in her past made it so this wasn't as traumatizing as it would have been for the average woman, or specifically for Candace Owens. I think that's more likely the truth that's coming out here. I'm not saying this woman wasn't traumatized. I'm just saying probably having sex with 100 men, it seemed to me like she disassociated. That's what it seemed like to me, more so than her being traumatized.
I like, honestly, like when you watch the video of her crying, I do believe that she felt like this obligation internally to, help these guys, support these guys who actually flew out. So I actually think she felt bad. That's really why I think she was crying.
We agree on this. That's my point. I actually think she was crying because she felt like she was disappointing her fans, which sounds insane. Again, guys, I'm not saying most women are like this. Most women would be horrific. I know many women, if they had sex with 100 guys, would commit suicide afterwards. I'm not saying this is normal, but I do truly believe in Lily Phillips' situation that because she was such a people pleaser in childhood, that's what turned her into a porn star, which then made her feel comfortable doing something like this. And I don't think the level of trauma and soapbox standing that Candace Owens is, like, in general, I agree with Candace, but in specifics, I don't agree with Candace. Like, in general, I think her mother did her a disservice. In general, I do think there was some trauma in her childhood. In general, I do think that she could probably have done something else for a living. In general, I do think she could have, like, manifested her sexual desires and not done them on camera and still made a lot of money as a model. In general, I agree with Candace. But I think Candace is standing on a soapbox when she starts talking about these are demonic possessions. Clearly, this was all about money. This will all fade. You're never going to have a future. I don't agree with Candace when it comes to that stuff. I think she's standing on a soapbox a little bit there.
So the one thing I will say, it's kind of like when we talk to Red Pill guys about guys like Rollo or Richard Reeves about like feminism. Some guys think it's nefarious. Some guys just think it's a byproduct. I'm more of a byproduct guy. So I like, if we're talking about this objectively, do I think what Candace is saying when she says demons, if she were to substitute that with, I think pornography is bad for society. A high number of men are addicted to pornography. That allows them to have social isolations. It ruins relationships. You have me on that. I definitely think that's true. But I don't take it as far to prescribe or inscribe trauma onto another person without actually knowing the facts. And that's what she's doing. That's why I don't like this talking the book.
Yes. In general, I would say most likely she has suffered some trauma before this, but I actually believe Lily Phillips when she says it wasn't trauma that she experienced during this whole situation, or rather she did have a trauma response to disassociate. And in right now, or here's another way to say it. Right now, while she's talking to Candace, I don't think she actually feels like she was traumatized. And she may have been, but I truly believe in her mind, she doesn't believe she has been traumatized.
From the documentary, like a lot. The good points I talked about was also very much cut out. You know, at the end of the day, they're there to tell a narrative. And that's kind of the narrative that they went for, is like...
Again, I don't really understand why Candace has a problem with the documentary creator. That's something I'll get to that later.
Seems like a sad girl, you know, and I don't want people to pity me or feel sorry for me. This is what I chose to do.
Right, but why were you crying? Are you saying these were happy tears?
No, I was extremely overwhelmed.
Again, another Candace Owens straw man debate shit.
And yeah, I mean, the experience was obviously, like, we had like an hour conversation after, and obviously when he started probing me about some experiences in it, it was, you know, it brought some tears. I'm a very emotional girl, so I cry a lot.
Yeah, wait, really quick, I'm trying to think, because now that I'm thinking about it, 100 guys in one day, like, that takes a toll on your body. Like LeBron's 39, and he's still.
See, this is where I disagree with you. His timing, his comedic timing is. I promise you, this guy has no trouble with women, dog. His comedic timing is excellent. That was a great setup for a joke.
Well, you know, LeBron's 39 years old.
100 guys in one day. I don't know what is. What?
He's not like the comment.
Like Bradley Martin, he's really good. He's a really good podcaster. He's not as good with the comedic timing as that.
Explain this to me in basketball terms. This is not the same thing.
No, I'm just saying, like, that takes a toll on your body.
I'm curious. There was a clip and you spoke about it before you came into the thing. There was a clip of you talking about finding a partner in the future, and you essentially said that there's going to be one poor that'll eventually marry me, right?
Yeah.
And you weren't crying. So I guess.
Bro, she said that.
Or do you think
that's wild? Well, she even she knows that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, for sure.
Your future self will regret any of this.
No, I definitely don't regret it. And obviously I can't speak for myself in the future. I don't know how I'm going to feel. But at the end of the day, I can't come back and say I regret this, because this is what, you know, I want to do in the moment. I'm not someone who is very regretful because I
hold on. Let me, I just want to have a moment with the audience here real quick. For those of you guys who are watching this, just a second. I want you guys to feel me on this. There's this thing where it's like women are acting like they're acting trashy. And because they're acting trashy, they're going to pay for it in the future. And we as men are trying to show them the way and give them guidance and leadership or whatever. And I have bad news for you guys. Because men are so weak right now, these women are not going to have to pay for their crimes. And I know that seems so unfair to a lot of you who've been rejected by women, but I promise you, you will play this video back in 10 years and you will see I was 100% correct. This idea that women who look like her will never find a partner. No, I agree that she won't find a partner like me, of course. She won't find a partner like Tristan, and most likely if you're watching this video, she won't find a partner like you, but she will find a partner, because when she gets older and she changes what she wants to settle on, she's going to look for different attributes. And these men who were beta and simpy previously are going to look like better and better options to her. Or even a man who's comfortable with her continuing to film with other men. We had a girl like that, Hailey, on our show just last week. Women who are comfortable with stuff like that, they're still there. I have a friend of mine, she's a porn star. Her husband lets her film with other people. I could never do that. But this idea, what we think, and again, Myron talks about this, other people talk about this idea that no man will take them. I agree. The high status men, these men at the top 5%, you're right. They're not going to date these women. I totally agree. But then I'm often confused there too, because we see the guy who sold the Heatonist would sold it for like $80 million. That guy was openly dating a porn star. So when you see this, like, I just want you guys to understand.
Oh, the Hot Wings guy. The Hot Wings guy? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My point is, if you're a guy out there and you're taking solace in like, yeah, these women are going to pay for it. Yeah. I just have bad news for you guys. Live your life about your own muscles, your own memory, your own education, your own status, your own body fat percentage, your own rating list, who you date, how happy you are, and how much you can do to protect your family. And stop worrying about getting these porn stars to pay for shit, because they're not going to pay for it. I'm here to tell you, I'm not saying, of course, there's going to be obviously tons of situations where girls get involved in drugs and they start crying and nobody wants to be with them. But if these women are attractive after their porn career is over, like they don't get addicted to drugs, some dude will be there to save them. Again, there's no reason for Project Pat to write a song called Don't Save Her if men aren't saving women. There's no reason for Willie D to write a song called Let a Hoe Be a Hoe if men weren't letting hoes be hoes. There's no reason for Juicy J to write a song, These are for everybody, if men didn't realize that they thought this particular was for them. Because men keep mischaracterizing this. There will always be someone there to subscribe to the OnlyFans and to marry the prostitute. There are always going to be someone there. So don't take solace in this, man. That's all I'm telling you.
And here's the other thing, like that ping of validation you feel, like if you ever see her crying or ever hear her saying she regrets this, again, that's a feeling that's doing nothing for you. Not like the way I see it, Mike, is like, none of this matters. None of this idea of like punishing these girls or getting back to these girls. None of this shit matters unless you, the viewer, improve yourself. None of that matters. Other than that, it's just a feeling, and you're no better than all the other girls on Fresh and Fit who are just going by their feelings that you're complaining about.
I've dated women who are more physically attractive than her, and I'm still not trying to denigrate her. I think she's made some choices. She, like Candace in general, is correct. I do believe this woman's made choices she'll regret in the future. I do agree with that. But what I'm trying to say is what Candace also wants is to just take this lump of coal and dump it on her, like this flaming lump of coal, to just like burn her and bury her with it. And my whole thing is like, no, Candace, she made some choices that you didn't make. And is it caught? Now, where I do agree with Candace is, this is setting a bad example, because there's going to be a lot of women that are like, wow, I just, had with 100 dudes and I made $10 million. If it comes out later that she made like $10 million from this, you're going to see a lot more women doing this. And I do think one of the worst things about OnlyFans, and I've seen this here in Las Vegas, is women in committed relationships with men who are on a path to marriage and children get pulled away because they have an OnlyFans to have sex with a couple, or to have, it's usually a couple, because there's not many heterosexual male content creators that can get women to go to them. There's a few, but very few. Mostly it's a couple where there's a guy and a girl, and they get like 80,000 views a month, and they'll have a regular woman go off and have. I'll call my friend out, Tucci Cash. She's one of them. Tucci has got several women to like cheat on their boyfriends with her, to do, not cheat on their boyfriends, but to go off and have sex with her and her partner, even when they were in a relationship. Tucci's done that before. And so when you see that, there's other women. Nara has asked girls to come have sex with her and a guy that she's dating. So you'll see that happen before. That is the part where there's these women who would have never gotten into sex work, who just, they're right there on the edge, and then poof, they're in, like they're a cocktail server, and then next thing you know, they're having on camera. I do think that is a kind of a negative from OnlyFans, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going here.
Now, here's what I want to say. I definitely, living here, like I was talking, shout out to Hailey, right? We were talking to Hailey after the podcast the other day, and she seems very rational in her, like there are women who do this work that are rational in decision making. She said, well, I already have 2 kids. I don't need another man. I'm making more money.
Yeah.
What? Who's going to punish her?
But who's going to punish her? It's like, how am I going to tell Hailey to take care of her kids also? Like, how am I going to tell her to take care? That's the other problem. Like, I can give her some advice, but like, Hailey, here's this Amazon FBA course. Here, take this. And like, what? Yeah. That's the only their issue. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like the simps have become welfare.
Yeah.
The simps have become the welfare,
For a reason. And I always think like it got you to where you are now. Does that make sense? Like, if I look back on it, I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. But then I wouldn't be the person who I am if I didn't do it.
Candace, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the questions that I certainly had when I was reading into your story was I think that you kind of tried to portray it like you had this like normal upbringing. And I obviously don't buy that because I have children and I have a daughter. And your mother being involved in this signals to me that you had anything but a normal upbringing, because there's no
Pause it.
mother that would spiritually want to see her child violated like that, because that's what it is.
Pause it. See, like, more religion, spirits, demons. None of this is obviously based on facts or studies or anything objective.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with this is where we're going to differ. I don't have a problem with someone basing their morality on religion. I don't have an issue with that. Religion has done plenty to formulate society. I don't have an issue with her believing that. What I do have an issue with, and I think we'll agree on this, is that because it was like this for Candace, therefore it must be like this for Lily. Because of Candace's relationship with her children, therefore Lily's relationship with her parents must be the same type of relationship, and therefore because it is not, Lily, you are obviously a liar. That's what I do have an issue with. That makes sense?
Yes, but again, that's I mean, we're on the same page. I didn't say like anything about religion. I'm just saying like this is what isn't normal for her is not normal for Lily, therefore Lily went through trauma. I don't like that logical like the way she puts that together. I just don't I don't agree with that.
Is whether you perceive it or not, your mother is watching you or helping you or dealing with the finances of you being violated 100 times in one day. And so I was very
violated.
By that.
Violated. Did you see that? You see that word?
Yeah. So yeah, this is the other issue. So again, I did actually have a problem with this. By again, being violated 100 times a day. If she chose of her own volition to do this, what Candace has done is taken the agency away from her as a human being, not as a woman, but as a human being. A woman can make if you want to say it's a poor choice, I think it would be a poor choice to have sex with 100 women in a day. I think that's a poor choice to say for her to be violated. No, that means these men have committed a crime and they haven't committed a crime. So that's why I have a little bit of an issue. And then she's trying to use she's taking out the TradCon paintbrush and trying to paint over this thing with a TradCon symbol. And that's why, again, guys, you understand, I'm a conservative, but I am a conservative and a Christian, but I'm not a TradCon. So I do have a kind of an issue with that whole thing right there.
I've sat down with them, respectfully on the whatever podcast. A lot of them have stories. They understand.
Yeah, this is another thing. I think it's funny. Candace Owens going on whatever podcast. Now she's an expert in sex workers. That part I thought was funny.
My dad, my upbringing didn't do this. It let me.
I'll slow it down a little bit.
But you don't seem to have recognized your mother's abusiveness, which is quite alarming to me. So I'm just curious about your relationship.
Just so we're clear, her mother did try to talk her out of this
relationship with her.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents definitely don't describe having as, what did you say? Sorry, abusive or
Violating.
I don't think it's abusive. I think your daughter being violated 100 times by strangers is abusive.
Pause
my
it.
parents don't describe as being violent.
So notice she's 20, she's an adult, so abuse, violation. Again, I think this is like, what do we call it? Infantilism, when you like basically take someone's agency away.
Yeah,
whatever that word means.
Infantilization. So Candace is trying to be like her TradCon mother and basically saying you're an infant who can't make your own decisions. And I think, there may even be like, dude, this girl may make more money than Candace Owens does this year. I don't know. But my point is, she's infantilizing this woman by saying she didn't make her own decisions. I agree with Candace that this was a bad decision that she made. I disagree with Candace that she doesn't even have the agency to make this decision. That's where we're going to disagree.
They don't really see it in that way. They know I've always been very liberal. And to be honest, my parents, they're not coaching me into it. They're not telling me, please keep having these people at all. They're not, they're not really exactly, I wouldn't really say like supportive, but at the end of the day, they love me. And what is it going to do if they disown me, stop talking to me? That would only cause more heartache. So they see it from a standpoint of, my mum does like my finances because she wants to help me. They just want to do what they can to help. It's not so much like if they disown me tomorrow, like I think that would just make everyone more upset.
Are you giving your mom a cut?
I'm not arguing that they should disown you. I understand like a mother's love for their child. I'm saying that it is unnatural for your mother to be counting the finances that you're earning from having 100 strangers violate you on the internet for cash, and that is the part that there's just no way to normalize that. There's no way to normalize that. I'm a parent. There's no way, like I have a daughter, and the idea of being involved in that, like it's not saying that if she goes down that path that you're not going to be there and pray and hope that, she changes and speak to her about that and say, I'm always going to love you. But I view it as predatory, parental behavior. And I don't think it's fair to even describe it as my parents are liberal.
Again, she says this again. I just want to point this out. I'm not sitting here trying to protect her family or whatever, but she does admit her mother and dad tried to talk her out of this.
I'm obviously
and here's the other thing.
My liberal friends.
she's not only implying and taking the agency away from Lily, and very disingenuous, to be honest. And like, I'm trying to take politics out of this, but she's painting these men who participated in this as monsters who violated this woman versus their 101 consenting adults who came together.
I think you and I will agree they're losers.
Yeah.
I think these guys are losers.
1,000%.
Losers. I mean, I know I'm being subjective here. I think these guys have other problems. I think these guys have other problems they need to deal with because can you imagine being number one is still fucking weird. Being number 100 though, bro, like I just can't even imagine in my mind like what I would be. The idea. I remember one time
I'm 24 years old, dude, with high testosterone. I couldn't. There's no girl hot enough in the world for me to be the second versus 100.
So
I don't even want to be the second.
So this is something that Adam Lyons, when he started making content again after kind of going away for a little bit as a dating coach, one of the stories he told was one time he had a girl who was a friend of his. She went on a date, and then afterwards she said, "I went on the date. The guy had sex with me. It was bad, and I was wondering if you could make me have an orgasm." So he goes over there and he makes the girl has an orgasm. And I told Adam, like after the video, I was like, Adam, I just need you to understand that these dudes in the red pill are not going to like that story. Like that's not like back in the day, pickup, there was no discussion of body count or politics or good with their mother or whatever, but we've changed. I'm with you, Tristan. I could not even consider being the second guy a girl had sex with in a day, and maybe I am a trad con because I believe that, but I think it has to do with my own self-esteem. So Candace saying that these guys are monsters, I disagree. Candace saying these guys are losers, or saying these guys are losers, I definitely agree with that point. Let's go back.
Go ahead. Hold on. And I think the fundamental problem here, if we want to call it a problem, is like I really do believe like all this like ties back down to men not knowing their worth. So it's not that Lily did this; it's that Lily is receiving money in exchange for doing this. She's getting this many men to even sign up for this. My thing is, why wouldn't Candace address the fact that men are going through like this crisis? But she's not addressing that because to me, that's the fundamental root of this. It's the 100 men who think, it's the 100 men who think that they have so little options that they should perform in this and they should feel grateful for it. And the men who are going to pay to watch this, that is more of the issue. And she's painting those men as monsters and gaslighting those men, which I also don't agree with.
So Candace made a video responding to this. I haven't seen it. I'm just watching this interview. She may have addressed that. I don't know. But that's my main point. My main takeaway from this is like, you may not realize, I know you think you have it hard. I'm telling you the whole world has it hard right now. The fact that we're even having this discussion, which seemed like such a non-starter to me, the fact that this is such a big discussion just lets you know there is a crisis in dating, and this is part of the manifestation of it.
Family members, their parents would do this also as demonic, whether they have faith or not. They would just say, what parent would want that for their child? Because your mother is old enough to understand what the implications are for your future. You already comprehend what the futures are, making it. I get that you turn everything into a joke. I think you do that really to protect yourself as an armor. I don't think you actually think it's funny, but
I don't even think she said it was a funny.
I didn't hear a joke. I didn't hear a joke at all.
I didn't hear that either. Yeah,
that like you're a beautiful young girl, and you're never going to have the prospects. You're not going to have a man that wants to have a family with you because they're going to see.
I completely disagree. Disagree. This is not true.
Okay, so let's be clear here. The highest level men, of course, are not going to want to be with a girl who's done porn, who's probably, I'm just guessing she's been an escort at some point, done orgy parties, was highly promiscuous before she started doing porn, and had sex with 1,000 guys in one day. Of course, I agree with her. The idea that no man's going to want to be with her, bro, there will be a line to the left. Basically, do you want to go on a date with Lily Phillips? If they did a reality show, there'd be 1,000 dudes in London trying to date this girl. And some of them, you'd be shocked, might even be good looking and wealthy. It's crazy how today's society has crippled men. So many men believe that they're worthless. I absolutely believe dudes would line up to date this woman. Absolutely. And they do it for the wrong reasons.
I mean, let's look at actual examples like Mike, that guy who does hot wings. He was dating that. Mike Malak on Logan Paul's podcast was dating Lana Rhodes. Oh, Blake Griffin had a kid with Lana Rhodes. I don't know. I'm saying
I didn't even know that. I saw Blake Griffin 2 days ago at Access. I didn't know he had a kid with Lana Rhodes. That's crazy.
He did. She revealed it. It was like that debate, remember? But it was between, was it KD or was it Blake Griffin? And it turned out to be Blake Griffin.
The baby came out redhead with short arms and long legs. Okay, then it turned out to be Blake Griffin. Got it. Understood.
It's your mother partaking in that, just so you know, is a form of abuse. It is. It's abusive.
I personally don't see it as that. I mean, my mum's just trying to help me. But what then would you suggest my mother does? Like,
try to talk you out of it.
Can I say something real quick? I want you to consider this woman that you see on the right side of your screen, just her face, not who the person is, but someone who looked exactly like her as a host on
Fox.
What is Candace Owens? No, on Fox.
Oh, the Daily
News
Wire. The Daily Wire. Yeah.
Oh, the Daily Wire. I want you to consider her as a host. Like, she could have been a host on the Daily Wire. Look at her. That's the part that I think that's the part that just like stuns people so much.
Mom is supposed to guide their children.
Pause it. Sorry,
Listen, I understand.
I'm glad you brought this up. Lily Phillips is the like in terms of physical appearance, is the archetype of Candace Owens' conservative audience. 1000%.
That's really interesting. And then to see that archetype do something like this is like it's doubly offensive. I can see that. I can definitely see that.
1000%. Like a Tommy Lahren, a Megyn Kelly, an Ivanka Trump. That's her physical archetype, and that is Candace's audience.
Interesting.
And you may think this is that, or you may think it's this way, but you're a beautiful young girl. You have your entire future ahead of you. You have two parents that love you. You know, you could marry a man and raise children and have a happily ever after. Or you could be the girl who everyone knows, who can't have a child that goes to school without people making fun of them. I mean, imagine having a son and they say, like, you know, your mom's...
I don't know this for sure, but I have a feeling we're in the future, people are going to get so used to this that here's what's going to happen. Kids are going to get made fun of because their parents were on OF. And then those kids who do the making fun of, instead of those kids having to deal with the embarrassment, I guarantee you, I can tell you right now what's going to happen. Tristan, you know what's going to happen. Any child who makes fun of another kid for having a parent on OF, immediately expelled. Immediately expelled. I guarantee you that's going to happen. Not only that,
1000%.
it's going to happen. It's going to happen like you go on Facebook. It's like, oh, your mom was on OnlyFans. If they find that, immediately expelled. I'm not saying that's a good thing. That's a terrible idea. I'm telling you the way that the education system is going right now, that is exactly what's going to happen to avoid exactly what Candace Owens is saying right now. I'm saying this is going to be somewhat of a problem, but the school systems are going to step in and try to end it.
I watched her get by 100 men, you know, or a daughter, you know, something which is just like, it's so precious, that relationship between a mother and their daughter, you know, like your mother should want to guide you in that way and say, like, this is the path that you could have. Like your future could be amazing. And you're giving it up for, this is not, by the way, fame, it's infamy. You know, you're establishing yourself as someone who's going to be infamous. It's going to pass so quickly. And
so this is the main point, the main reason why I wanted to make this video. We're going to stop the sharing real quick because I want to talk to you guys for a second. The main reason, infamy will pass. No, it won't. Okay, Joseph Stalin, Pol Pot. You know, guys. Again, all I got is my balls and my word. First you get the money, then you get the power. Scarface. Okay, we watched Casino, we watched Goodfellas, we watched The Wolf of Wall Street. In these movies, the bad guy was the good guy we loved. If you guys have ever been to a play, like a Broadway play, who do they cheer for the most at the end of the play? The bad guy. He comes out right before the protagonist, and everyone just like cheers. There's a huge pop for the bad guy. For The Rock, for Stone Cold Steve Austin when they're bad guy, when Hollywood Hulk Hogan was the bad guy. This idea, guys, that the bad guy like infamy ends is utter and complete nonsense. O.J. Simpson is more famous than Candace Owens, and he not for a good reason. Infamy, this I think it'll just fade in a second. I totally disagree.
Status is status is status.
Thank you. Status is status is
This
status.
is status.
I'm not saying this is a good thing, guys. It would be better if you were known for something, for doing wonderful things for people. But the reality of the situation is, all of you who are watching this, none of you are as famous as the Hawk Tuah girl who made a video about penis. Yes, she did. And now she's way more famous than you, making millions of dollars. I totally disagree with Candace on this at this point. I think the world should be that way. It would be great if you were noticed, you were merited more for doing good things in the world. I think the world would be better that way, but that's not how the world is. There's just too many situations where people do crazy, nonsensical stuff, and they're rewarded with more attention and more money, and then they write a book about it, and it's a bestseller. I'm just tired of hearing, like, this is just Sunday school nonsense, the idea that she's going to be infamous, and then it will just fade quickly. I promise you, Lily Phillips will probably be famous for the rest of her life.
And here's the thing. Candace Owens would not be on that interview or would not have even reacted to this had this not even blown up to begin with.
Or that documentary been made about this whole thing, and she said the documentary maker was a monster while using his footage on her show.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an issue as well.
Being a big problem is maybe the next girl trying to one up it and into the pair anymore. You're going to be in irrelevant, but you're never going to have a relationship.
By the way, fading into irrelevancy is not death. I don't mind. Guys, if I had a lot of money and a wife who loved me and kids, and she said, hey, let's move to Wyoming, and my kids wanted to move there, and they were happy, and I faded into irrelevancy, and I was happy, that, again, for Candace, that would be the worst thing in the world, for Candace to fade into irrelevancy because she's a content creator. I understand that. I just don't think that if this woman ends up with 25 mil in the bank and finds some simp beta who wants to marry her, there's a chance, I know this is going to make guys really angry to hear this, there's a chance Lily Phillips might end up being happy. I know that's crazy. What I do agree with Candace on is the message that this sends to other people. And I wish she could just say it that way instead of just saying, objectively what you're doing is bad. Maybe it is bad. I don't think it's bad for her, but it's just one of these situations where it's like, dude, she may end up being happy from this. Who fucking knows?
And that's what your mother should be telling you if she actually loves you.
Lily, really quick. Where does the video? So it's a video of 100 people, right? 100 guys.
Yeah, so I had to do it because it was a film for like 14 hours of footage. I had to do it all.
He needs to know the video is. Dude, he is so funny, dude.
Where does that video live? Is it like on your site? Brad's seen it 3 times.
This guy keeps asking about the
Brad's
video.
seen it 3 times.
You sound like you want to see that, bro.
So financially, like, you made a lot of money from this, right?
I've done okay. I support myself.
Do you, and because your mom doesn't watch this, right? She just stays out of it. She just like lets you do your thing.
Yeah, the thing is, she has tried to talk me out of it. So has my father.
So they've tried to talk you out of it.
Yeah. They have tried to talk me out of it, but they recognise that I am my own woman. I am a grown woman, and I support myself. I pay my own rent, and they can't really talk me out of it in the sense of just like.
Is this something that you would talk? Would you talk another girl out of this? If you had a daughter?
To me, sorry, or to
yes. If you had a daughter, would you talk another woman out of this?
So,
that's a phenomenal question.
Yeah, and I've actually
that was a phenomenal question.
I think I've heard a lot of girls, dude. I think Bradley's a really thoughtful dude. I was listening to him with the Bulgarian podcast. He tries to have empathy for the people he's interviewing. But like when I watch this, I've seen this before. So one of the tricks, this is kind of like a red pill trick or a blue pill, whatever you want to call it. This is kind of a trick you can do. When a woman says, hey, this is the right decision for me, I'm glad that I'm doing OnlyFans, I'm glad I'm doing all this stuff, you ask them, would you want your son dating a girl like this? And then all of a sudden a switch flips in their head and their answers become different. And then you start asking the women, if you had a daughter like this, how would you feel? Or if you had a brother like this, all of a sudden the switch flips in their head, and all of a sudden they can, for 1 second, just for a millisecond, they can see the world from a third person point of view and say, oh yeah, I probably wouldn't want my daughter or my son to date a girl who'd been with 100 guys in one day, because that woman's most likely going to necessitate, she's going to need a lot of stimulus and far more likely to cheat on me. More likely to cheat on my son. And as a grandparent, as a potential grandparent, what's the worst thing in the world for me to have my son get right? So I don't want that either. So I can see how that would be an issue as well. That's why if you ever guys want to get like the ultimate expression of something when it comes to dating and intersexual dynamics, don't ask what would you do? Ask what would you tell your daughter? That's a really great question. And it's funny because you know who uses that question more than anybody? Marquette. Marquette uses that question constantly. And a lot of people find, and the reason why it grinds the conversation to a halt, because it's a very difficult question to answer. And a lot of people find that question to be hateful. Like, what is a woman? You should be able to ask the question, what is a woman? You should be able to ask this question as well. But you'll find that when you ask people questions from this perspective, you're a mother, or, because now we're including evolution in it. You're a mother, or you have a son or a daughter, would you want them doing the same thing? Then you're going to start to see, try this, experiment this, you guys at home, experiment with this, your female friends or your guy friends, and you're going to see the answer becomes a lot more logical when you state it from that point of view. All right, let's go here.
Mike, slight tangent. I want to go
ahead.
Say something else. I think, I don't know if you've gotten this criticism, but I have absolutely gotten this criticism from friends where, I'm out at these parties with these girls, and they say like, well, you wouldn't date a girl who's a quote unquote, but you create her. I'm like, no, dude. A lot of these girls, they just don't want to get married. They want to sleep around. They just want to have their fun. I'm not absolving myself of full responsibility, but the point is, they don't want to settle down, bro. Like,
Yeah.
you're not creating anything. They're just like this. Some women are just like this. It's the truth.
You are a
The
homemaker.
answer is just,
I would like. She's a homemaker, and you're a homemaker.
got it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll start a podcast.
Here we
together,
go.
who knows?
All of it. Let's see what you've done. Follow her footsteps. They think, okay, this girl got popular, she got famous, infamous, whatever you want to call it. She's probably making good money. Oh, I can do this the easy way. All I have to do is kind of like open myself up, to just get through it, right? Would you ever recommend this for another woman?
I mean, I'm always an advocate for don't ever, really have a think about it before getting into the adult, because it's not easy. It's not what people think online. It's not fast money. I would never push someone to do something and recommend it or anything like that, because I always think, anyone can do what they want. They don't need me telling them what to do. So if my daughter wanted to get into it, obviously I would highly educate her on all the bad things about the industry, because, there's such a dark side to it. I would definitely highly educate her on that. And, if it's something that
You want to know something ironic? She actually doesn't
by
know
the-
a ton
hold-
about the industry either.
Yeah. I was going to say, that was a
She doesn't.
very rational response that she just gave.
Yeah, but the problem is she doesn't know a bunch about the industry either. She's 23. Like she because she's done, she thinks she's an expert in. There's a lot more bad stuff that can happen here that I don't think she's aware
really
of.
wanted to go through with. That's her decision. That is her choice, and I would still support her and still, talk to her and coach her through it, and be there for her.
Candace, what would you tell Lily, like, now she's gone down this road, but she could have a 9-to-5 and make 60 grand a year, or do what she's doing now and make millions?
I could never have a 9-to-5 though now.
No, I know, but I'm asking Candace, like, for her advice. Like, how could Lily go to having, like, a walk away from this, having
Pause
a
it.
job? Like,
Pause it. Michael.
Yeah.
Even if she lost all her money tomorrow, it only takes one simp to save her.
Bro,
She's
yeah.
right.
I mean,
she cannot have a 9-to-5 because there will always be one simp who will not let her have a 9-to-5. She is correct.
That's not exactly the question here, though. But what she's trying to do. It's funny that Sonny's the one who's doing this. He's trying to play devil's advocate to Candace right now, because the thing is, like, Candace, how is she's comfortable doing this, and you're telling her to give up millions of dollars? That's kind of what the question is right here.
too gone, right?
Is there a transition?
Too far gone.
Being completely honest, don't think there's a transition from sleeping with 1,000 guys in one
It's
day.
100, right?
Yes, I've done 100, but I'm going for 1,000. Sorry.
Hope.
Didn't mean to say it,
You're gonna have 1,000 guys. So what does that work out to? Like one guy every 86 seconds.
Okay, wait, hold on,
Yeah.
guys. 1 sec, Brad. You got to tuck up.
I'm done. All right.
Uh-oh.
This video's getting too long. But yeah, that goes. It's got like a
There we
perfect
go.
transition to exactly what I'm saying. Again, guys, of course you don't want your daughter having 900 dudes. Of course, everyone out there who's screaming at the TV and mad at her, I'm right there with you. The point is, what's happening is, let's pile on by additionally saying this woman will never find anyone who loves her. And that's just like, not only is that not true, dude, it's none of your business. Like, leave it alone. Like, move on and worry about something else. The best way to get over a breakup is just ignore her. Like, forget this whole thing happened. In this case, a lot of men who have suffered from hurt because they've been rejected by women or whatever else has happened, their way of like getting over that hurt is by then saying, well, that girl who cheated on me will never be happy in the future. She might. It's none of your business, Bo. It's Schrodinger's cat. You don't know. She might be. She might not be. Stop focusing on this and stop. Like I actually think I do think what. So guys, you have this issue internally where you're like, oh, these women need to pay for what they've done. And I know there's this like feeling, this pang of validation for you. Let's make the whores pay. But the problem is, guys, it doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't make you better. And the thing is, while I do think what this Lily Phillips girl is doing is like 10 out of 10 probably mentally unhealthy, I also think there's an unhealthy obsession that Candace Owens has as well, as far as making the world think, hey, just to let you know, this woman's going to be unhappy in the future. And the reality is, while she probably will be unhappy in the future, she might not be. And if she is happy in the future, if I bump into Lily Phillips 20 years from now, I was like, oh my God, you're Lily Phillips. How's everything going? She's like, oh, I'm happy. I have some kids and everything's happy. And I met this great man who loves me very much and yada, yada, yada. And we go to sex parties and we enjoy our life. Or she says, I'm much calmer. I'm not going to look at her and be like, no, you're a bad example. I'm going to be like, oh, congratulations. Worked out for you. I meet guys all the time. They end up dating like strippers or sex workers or whatever. And they're like, hey, man, you know, I've been with this girl for 10 years. It was the best decision of my life. I'm really happy. I don't look at them and be like, no, you have violated red pill tenets and must be punished. No, what I say is, hey, man, you got lucky. You beat the odds, pimp. You beat the odds. And I'm happy for them. And that's what we should do. We should be happy for our fellow man. I think what she did is probably not a good idea. I'm not going to say it's demonic, but I think what she did was probably not a good idea. I wish nothing but the best for her. I wish nothing but the best for Candace. I might actually start watching the Nelt Boys more because that shit was pretty funny. They ain't going to be loyal, not to anybody. But I love these hoes, right? I don't love them, but at the same time, I don't wish the worst for anyone, and especially specifically if you're not doing something horrible. I do not want my daughter ending up like them, and I don't want to date a woman like them. And I would hope that some of my female friends, I would try to guide them away from that lifestyle. But what we got to do as men is stop bringing this negativity into our lives, where it's like we feel it's our duty to shame these women. I know some guys do that, but I'm just saying, I don't think that's the best thing in order to help men move forward. That's just my opinion. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you in the next video. This one has already been too long. Something we want to try different. Want to check out the new studio, and I will see you guys in the next video.